Hi, Daniel. Welcome to our show. We're so happy to have you here. How's it going with you?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
I
I've
mean,
been listening to you guys all 10, is it? 9 or 10 episodes that are out on the new platform.
oh,
Thank you for remembering to resubscribe.
Yeah,
Wait, did you actually listen to all 90 minutes of the Hamilton episode? Because
for
people
sure.
tell us they have been. I'm like, what? Wow,
Yep.
we are all so bored.
Well, I'm so starved for conversations around our industry that it was such a nice feeling to hear four different voices and opinions about a show that I love and had just watched that previous weekend too. So that was really special, actually.
can we use this for our marketing and like have you? We cannot pay you a penny, but we want you as our spokesperson.
Signing my name in the air right here.
Thank you so much. So, Daniel, before everything went to hell when the pandemic started, you were in the midst of shooting. What is it? Season 5
Season 5, yeah.
of
We were
Billions. Yeah.
starting,
What happened? Like, do you remember what happened when they were like, no more episodes?
yeah. We were just starting episode 8 of our 12 episode season 5. And I want to say I shot on that Tuesday, March 10th. And already by then, it felt like things were going to be closing down or pausing for some time. And we had actually built in a week-long spring break for the following week. And so the producers made the executive decision of, we'll just make your spring break 2 weeks instead of one. And then it ramped up. So on that Thursday, the 12th, we shut down for good. And I was also doing a reading of a playwright by Dan Giles at Ensemble Studio Theater. And so we were also rehearsing every day, wondering, is this the last day we get to rehearse? Will we make it to our one day of performances on the weekend? And of course, we did not. And so that was a scary feeling that, now we've just gone through 4.5 months of. But the producers said, we'll see after 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, they said, we'll assess the situation. Everyone stay in touch. And we're just texting each other and, social media, loving one another while we wait and see.
What's Paul
Yeah,
Giamatti's favorite emoji? No, I'm kidding.
I don't think I've ever received an emoji from Paul Giamatti. So
that sounds on brand. But I actually, so I don't know that much about like what a Hollywood production schedule is like, or what back scene is like 100%. But I heard that you can start filming you can start filming again in New York City at least. And so have you been getting news about like when it might ramp up again for you?
I've taken, so yes, Cuomo, I believe, allowed it in phase 4 starting at July 20th, I believe. And so filming has resumed. And I think, my friend group who loves Drag Race assumes Drag Race 13 is filming right now. And I have other friends saying they're locked in hotel rooms at quarantining, waiting to test. And so I know it's happening, but for our show, I haven't heard anything. And the approach I've personally taken, I don't want to be the kid in the backseat of the car saying, are we there yet? Are we there yet? So I'm just asking no questions and just waiting. And I'll be pleasantly surprised when something happens. So we'll see.
Fingers crossed it'll be, because I'm sure you miss just being at work with people, right? But also like wear a
Yeah.
mask. Um,
Yes.
Around the time that we first started talking about the idea of having you as a guest, you didn't, we weren't even thinking about a specific project of yours to talk about. And then like we keep getting like press releases for like the Parsnip chip and for the Homebound project and for like so many things, and you are in everything. So how did you go from this like, okay, we're going into a 2 week break maybe, into
Mhm.
you being in every podcast and like every
And doing a music video with BD Wong.
yeah.
Let's talk about that.
It really is, to reference your own episodes, Raul Esparza saying how it feels like we can work as an actor again when we have these little projects. It has helped keep me sane to know I have this little thing. I have this Zoom workshop with Page 73. I have a week-long thing with Ensemble Studio. I have projects in development with My Theater. It makes me feel like the industry isn't. I know how much you hate hearing it's on pause or it's dead in the water right now. I've heard this recurring theme in your episodes. Help me reframe the idea of myself that no,
I feel called out right now.
no, but it was very good because I kept posting like, I miss theater, I miss the business, I hate that we're on pause, I hate that, we're halted right now. And then I would hear your voices saying the industry is not on pause, it is figuring itself out in new platforms and new stories and new methodologies. And how about we celebrate that and actively seek it out and review that and praise it. And so that's helped me a lot with my grief of not sitting in the dark with a group of strangers coughing and on their phones while a piece of theater happens in front of me live, and to seek out the other opportunities instead and celebrate my own opportunities I've been invited to. So.
But I mean, you can still set up like a Zoom call and have people cough while you watch something. That's like perfectly, manageable. I think like you can arrange that.
Right.
But can you run us through like some of the projects that you've done? Because it's difficult to catch up with you, to keep up with you these days. The ones that you can talk about, let us know so everyone can go find them.
Oh, sure. The first one I believe I did was one of the 24-hour plays, Viral Monologues. And it was very early on, and I think I agreed to do it before I was in a mental place where I could memorize a monologue in less than 7 hours and give a decent performance. And I kid you not, I went crazy trying to do the best job I could for something that I thought would live online forever and be taken so seriously, and was sort of like, I'm still an actor even though there's a pandemic happening. And I put so much pressure on myself. So I wouldn't say look for that monologue, but it's out there, and I'm wearing a panda vest for no reason, or for a fun reason. And then I just recently did my second monologue in the pandemic, which I'm sure certain actors have done so many monologues, but my new one is by Sylvia Corey for the Homebound Theater Project, and every dollar raised goes to No Kid Hungry. And they've raised over $100,000, and in this 5th edition, every dollar is matched to make it up to $20,000 matched, which is just amazing. And my picture is in between, like, Amanda Seyfried? Seyfried? Is that how you say her name? I've never said her last name before. And Laurie Metcalf. And so I just think, like, what a nice place to be in a grid. Between my favorite Mean Girl and between one of my favorite actors in the most underrated show, Getting On HBO. I highly recommend it if you're binging TV shows like I am left and right now. What else? I did a workshop for Dan Giles of his play Mike Pence Sex Dream, which is just the most amazing title ever. And that's the one that we were workshopping right up until the pandemic shut everything down. And so we redid a virtual workshop of that, and I hope it continues on.
When's that happening again? That title is
It's
wonderful.
called Pence Sex Dream by Dan Giles. And I don't know if there's a date set yet, but I'm optimistic that there'll be a future for it. And I did one of the Pride play readings. I thought that I really love the Pride plays, and I got to participate last year too. And I just think what they're doing and giving LGBTQ plus voices this much attention and their own festival feels amazing, because I always think it's weird that we as New York City don't have an LGBTQ plus theater company like About Face in Chicago or Diversionary in San Diego, and I would really wish that to be the case. So this festival feels like a step in that direction. So I had fun doing that. And you guys are going to interview BD Wong, and he's got this song cycle coming out, and I will be sans clothing in one of his music videos. If that gives more reason to watch and send money to Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS. I would love the Actors Fund to get more attention by my nudity. So I'm happy to put that out there. Send money to this organization I care about.
Oh my God, they should have called you for Broadway Bears this year.
I know. I definitely watched that. What was that? Yesterday or the day before?
Yeah, yeah.
I forgot about it. Shit.
I think it's
It's still on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah. And I made a tradition of going every year that I could since I lived here. And other than the maybe adverse effect of the slight body dysmorphia I feel after the fact, I have seen them celebrate more body types over the years. And I do find the celebration in and of itself so beautiful. And I don't have a dad, and so I love that it's on Father's Day. It's like a gay holiday in the middle of the summer. And I always get to see friends and think, wow, you haven't eaten in a month and I need to go to the gym.
Wait, can you sing? I don't know if I've asked you this before.
Can I sing?
Yeah, like, can you be in a musical? Do you have that training?
I do, I can. I am very much a bass, and I believe modern day musical theater only cares about pop rock tenors, and so I'm just waiting to be Norm Lewis's age just so I can play dads, which are reasonably baritone based, I believe. Although, like, next to Normal's dad still sings way up there, so what am I saying? But I'm hoping my day will come. The only soundtrack I'm on is this musical called The Ballad of Little Joe that was based on this movie about this true story of a woman who disguised herself as a man to live in a mining town in the 1800s. And I think the story is fascinating, and I actually think in hindsight what it says about trans identity and gender identity is something that I wish could be re-examined if it was ever done again. But we did it at Two River Theater, and it's my one and only cast recording that exists out there. And so that's fun if you want to listen to a Western musical.
Maybe we can manifest
yes.
into the universe right now, you starring as the dad in Parasite, the musical, someday.
That'd be amazing. Only because there has to be a musical
no.
where she's sitting on the toilet while it's exploding, smoking a cigarette, and singing some amazing, like, Alanis Morissette cover. I would pay so much money to see that happen.
Or you can be Jessica.
Thank you. It would be my honor.
Yeah. Well, we've noticed that you're part of a book club, and I know you're also a playwright. So have you been taking this time to, like, get back into that part of your brain, the writing part?
Totally. I am in a long list of emerging playwrights whose first pieces were canceled or postponed because of the pandemic. But I did recently get to announce that the National Endowment of the Arts had supported this untitled gay sex and conversion therapy play of mine, directed by Ralph B. Pena, who's the artistic director of Mayi Theater Company. And so while our production is postponed indefinitely, I am very grateful that we've done a workshop and have pending workshops of that, as well as Mayi has turned around incredibly fast and said, how do we employ artists? How do we give work to actors and writers and designers in this time? Because it's certainly not going to be in an indoor theater. And they created Mayi Studios, which I'm so in awe of how fast they've moved and how they're literally putting money where their mouth is. And I personally have been sustained by Mayi funds over this summer as they've commissioned work from me, and I'm sure a slew of other artists of creating, I don't know what to call it, but digital plays or storytelling for this medium that is maybe just a little bit more elevated than Zoom, or what the technology of Zoom is able to do. And so I'm cautiously optimistic about that future. And I've also been turning all of my plays into pilots or screenplays because it's a good exercise. I should have that portfolio, and I don't. I stubbornly wanted to just be a playwright, but I think the industry of theater can't safely return live until we are post-vaccine, and so I have a little more faith in TV and film potentially being able to bounce back in small incremental ways. And I'd love to see storytelling that I write come alive there in this time, and not think that I just have to wait for however many years before theater resumes. So.
Right, because it's not paused. Remember, we're gonna quiz you at the end, Daniel, to see if you have been listening to all the episodes
Right.
for real.
Right.
And also, like, you should totally like take over and replace one of us. Like, when one of us is sick, we're naming you like the official, extra TTF.
It's up
But
teacher.
yeah, but
That would be
but from all these things that are keeping you like, cautiously optimistic, what are some things that you really love that you want to bring into this new world if we ever are allowed to leave the house again?
Yeah, my first thought was equity and access as far as price is concerned, and so I feel like so much of the archives of theater or even the new pieces have been allowed to be seen across the country and the world for 0 to X amount of less dollars than actually sitting in a theater. And I wish that kind of access could always be available for anyone to be able to see it. And I don't know how, but I hope that practice and those statistics exist somewhere, that people who normally wouldn't get to see Hamilton as the extreme example got to see it. What does that age demographic look like? What does the color of their skin and where are they in the world getting to see that versus the rich tri-state area that got to see it, or the people who flew in on their private jets and got to see it on Broadway. And I'd also love to see, I think there's an immediacy to storytelling happening now, whereas I always remember this joke that Taylor Mack made in the 24-hour plays about how you come up with the idea of a play, you write said play, and then you workshop it, or you have a reading, and then you have a workshop, and then you have an out-of-town tryout, to have another producer's reading, to have another in-town workshop, and then the off-Broadway run, and then maybe the Broadway run, and now 7 or 10 or 15 years have passed since the initial insemination of the idea of the project, and what does that do to the life that you were trying to breathe in there, or the question you were posing there, and is that relevant by the time the machinations of theater and the hoops you have to jump through are done, and it gets to be seen by the audience that maybe isn't even alive or is aged out of the generation it was trying to speak to, or all of those factors. I'm so excited by, here's a story, someone's written it, someone's acted and produced it, and here it is online. And as much as I miss, say, like high editing quality or reliable internet speeds in the midst of this, I'm so glad that stories are being told, and that they feel a little more urgent. Not saying I want pandemic-themed storytelling for From Here to Kingdom Come, but I am excited by any stories that feel alive and of the now, that wouldn't have gotten this opportunity, that maybe now will get to see the light of day, or access someone that would have gotten to come to, say, New York in the first place. Yeah.
No, I love that you said that, because like one of the best plays I saw on Zoom in the last couple months was Diana O's My Hate Letter to the American Theater, and I remember getting an email about that from her saying, how do I get this produced? I feel like it needs to be produced now. And Ralph Pena and Ma Yi produced it, and it was amazing, and I want more of that. And so I feel like now is such a great time to just like test out ideas. And so will we be expecting your gay conversion play filmed in the Ma Yi lab?
Not filmed in the lab, because it requires so much touch, and sensuality is such a language to it that I don't know that we can do it safely. Perhaps a public reading of sorts could happen eventually. And in the meantime, I've been writing this, whatever we're calling it, digital play with an actor and writer, John McGinty, who's a deaf performer, and we're trying to write interracial gay couple of sorts, deaf and hearing relationship, and this deaf family, and trying to give light to this story that may not be considered in these times, especially as in the same immediacy of storytelling I was bragging about. I've been thinking about access and ability to hear or see or read said stories, and the importance of subtitles, or the ability to include more than the majority of ability folks, and how to adapt for those needs has been a new challenge that I'd love to keep investigating. So who knows what works of mine will happen, but I'll just remain cautious and thank Mayu Theater especially in advance, and see what happens or what unfolds.
Since we have all been trapped at home for over 100 days now, like what is it, like 150 days or something like that now, I am about to try out knitting for the first time, which is like bonkers. So I wonder what's like the nerdiest, like, like project at home that you've taken on, Daniel, during this really, really strange summer.
The nerdiest project I've taken on is organizing all of my playbills and scripts and papers, and I bought a second 4-drawer filing cabinet so that I could fully put them in dividers and mark the years. And I even got those extra wide files versus the regular sized green files that hang. That is my organized hoarding, and a little bit about me that you might not have known. But in doing so, I got to pull out some fun old playbills that I thought we could walk down memory lane. And since it's almost my 11-year anniversary in New York, but I have playbills from 2009 forward to try to play with, or show and tell with you guys.
Do it, but wait, how many playbills are we talking about that you currently own? Are we talking like the thousands?
Oh, okay. So I know that I own 25 full playbill binders, and I think they fit like 30 or so in there. And then I have files marking each year with non-playbill sized playbills, and that takes up an
How did you afford to go to all those shows?
I learn every year that I do taxes that I don't spend my money on clothes as much as I think I do, on eating out as much as I think I do, or traveling. I really should travel with this money, is what I've learned. And maybe I should have invested and bought property or something. I really spend all my money on tickets. And the IRS has audited me so many times before I could afford a professional accountant, because I think they look at how much research money I spend on tickets. But I do, and every time they audited me, all I did was scan my ticket stubs or like receipts to say, no, I have proof. And yes, I did go to all these shows. And one year I was feeling a little petty and bored that I just started to like talk about the things I spent money on for the auditor to have fun reading about. And I got my money back that year. So it's still, I've contested it every time.
That's commitment.
Really, I just spend so. And so when I say, I love theater, I really do mean I love theater so much. And I miss it so much, or the live iteration of. And I will continue to invest and share my love for all the digital and new, inventive and reincarnated versions to come in this pandemic.
Someone should build like a statue of you, like in the middle of Times Square. It's like, the man who's like single-handedly keeping theater alive.
Well, I mean, I love my discounts. When I was younger, I would do the, early morning lineups. I love TDF is so great, and I love a good comp. Although once I could sustain myself as an artist, I try to not use comps and put money back into companies, because I don't know if this is 100% true, but I don't think any theater show makes its money back on ticket sales, like in an off-Broadway version, right? I think it's all, it
Not
requires,
even Broadway shows sometimes.
yeah, like museums don't exist on ticket sales. They exist on the like huge donors that fund it and government support and et cetera, right? So I try to do what little I can and at least buy the ticket for, especially the off-Broadway companies that I really care about, that, you know, employ my friends or people who look like me. So I'm all about putting money where your mouth is there.
Okay, show us your favorites. I cannot wait.
Okay, they're in the order of year. So I guess I pulled this out from 09, 2010. This is David Cromer's Our Town, and that was at Barrow Street. And I know I just brought up the whitest example ever, even though I'm talking to brag about inclusivity and diverse storytelling. But this one meant a lot to me because I loved seeing David Cromer on stage and this show, and then I got to work with him on Billions, and I thought that that's one of those, if you work in this industry long enough, things happen that you would never expect, and that's a huge piece of gratitude that, like, you know, A Band's Visit was one of my favorite shows of that season, and he directed that, you know, like I think he's incredible, and just like a wonderful, fun human being. This one is Sarah Ruhl's Passion Play. Deep, were you around for these? I don't know if I've gone too far back. Neither of you lived here yet. I'll fast forward. But I just love Triptych, Sarah Ruhl. I don't feel like it got enough attention. It was in a church in Brooklyn, and so it had like a site-specific feel to it. There were all these like giant fish that floated across stage. I love her magical realism. That one was special. Okay, and speaking of magical realism, Brief Encounter, that was at St. Anne's Warehouse, transferred to Broadway. It had one of the coolest effects where you were watching the movie version within the show, and then the actors would step out of the movie curtain, and it was timed perfectly so that their bodies moved out of the curtain when they were leaving the screen. Little things like that blew my mind. I love theater, and I
see that so bad.
I think that was one of the first shows. Yeah. Oh, that's one of like the first shows I paid money for in New York when I moved here.
And well worth $1.
And that was one of the first shows that I think Damon Dono, who we love, was in.
Yeah.
Who's that?
He's in the band.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was, you know, Curly from the New Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah. I can't find the credits page, but I love that Oklahoma. Okay, this is 09 Circle Mirror Transformation, Annie Baker's play.
Ooh.
I knew nothing about it going in, and it reinvigorated my love of new play storytelling, and that intimate space in Playwrights Horizons is my favorite, and often where the people of color are relegated to as well, but also my favorite for its intimacy. And I got to act in there doing a play by Kyung Park, directed by Carlos Armesto, called Disoriented back in 2010 or 2011. So I'll always have a soft spot for that theater, as much as my bucket list is to work in the bigger theater downstairs as a political statement. I'm on a St. Anne's roll, Black Watch. This was from the National Theatre of Scotland, and aside from Men in Uniform, which can be a different discussion for a different time, there's a number in this show where they talked about the evolution of their uniform, and one actor had this long monologue about the different traits of the uniform that evolved over the years, and the ensemble like threw him around and changed him. It was like quick change magic on stage that I'll never forget. It was amazing. And to see war represented on stage with such brutal honesty is something that's important to me, so that we're not idealizing the military, but actually trying to tell the stories that aren't being told about it. And I'll never forget that one. I think I'm still going too far, so I'll go faster. Hallway Trilogy by Adam Rapp. This is when I fell in love with Soo-Jin Kim, and so I'm going to highlight that. Because in the third part of the trilogy, the whole play takes place in one hallway in 3 different timelines. And in the future, the future is such that disease doesn't exist anymore. And so each room has been refitted to show a different disease. I'm sorry if I'm like terribly summarizing this, but Soo-Jin played like a tour guide in this future museum of now dead and gone illnesses, and I'll never forget it. And Louis Kinchalmi's in it, and we're on Billions together too. And I just, yeah, that one, yeah, that was special. Rattlestick in that tiny space. They put the audience, like along the wall rather than the regular proscenium seating.
Oh.
Let me go. This is from the 2012-2013 season. NATCO, National Asian American Theater Company, did Awake and Sing with an all Asian American cast. And I had studied Odets in undergrad, and I never thought I could see myself in an Odets play. And yet I love Odets' language so much. And the same goes for Tennessee Williams. And so to see a company whose mission was to take classics and put Asian bodies in them meant so much to me, and I hope and know that they'll continue to do it. And that one meant a lot, and it's full of friends that I just love. Okay, speaking of like old programs that you would save deep, this one's the Great Comet when it was at Ars Nova.
Oh wow, you were there from the beginning. I wasn't even there then.
I didn't even know what I was going to see. I think my friend Kate Yu, maybe a playwright, took me saying like, this is supposed to be good. And the night we went, I feel like Sondheim was sitting at another table. I don't think I'm making that up. I just remember thinking, oh wow, he's here. That's a big deal. And the intimacy of it. While they did an incredible job of transferring that to Broadway, also because I only sat on stage whenever I saw it on Broadway, I will always treasure the feeling of, they did this simple gesture of, when you swirl your finger on a water glass and there's that sound, when 20 ensemble mates are doing that at the same time, that, like, Goosebumps doesn't even capture what that feels like. And I think I'll always remember that moment and how special that was. Okay, I've made it to 2014. I'm trying to go along. New York Theater Workshop, Scenes from a Marriage. Mia Katigbak, Rosalind Ruff, who was the last performer I saw in Help before we shut down. That was my last performance I'd gotten the privilege to see. Yeah, Susanna Flood, Tina Benko, just Alex Hurt. This cast was amazing. And did you get to see Scenes from a Marriage, either of you? They imagine New York Theater Workshop, where they divided it into 3 rooms, and you traveled between the 3 rooms for the first half of the play. And then at intermission, they lifted the walls of the rooms, and you realized that the audience was set in a circle. So the audience encircled the entire space, and then the last act was done in the round that way. Just amazing. And that, like, I credit Evo, or whoever casts Evo on those shows, that it is inclusive, and it maybe not color conscious, but color blind, truly, of that's not the factor of how people are related or how families are created in his theater telling, and that meant so much to me. That Mia Katigbak could be a white-bodied person's mother, and Rosalind Ruff and Alex Hurt in an interracial relationship, to me, does more to the story than just seeing white bodies on stage, or what I imagine. I haven't seen the movie, but I think it's a majority white cast there. So, so I appreciated that. Okay, this one's immersive theater, this is the last program they give you at Then She Fell, the immersive Alice in Wonderland and Lewis Carroll thing that the what is the name of that company called? I'm blanking for a second.
Third Rail Projects.
Third Rail Projects.
And when I say I miss live theater, I think I miss immersive theater even more. And so I got to revisit Sleep No More in early March for my partner's birthday, and I had such an amazing time, and I know people can have very mixed experiences. And we'd seen Then She Fell for our friend Carolyn, who is the wife of Kelly Aucoin, who plays Dollar Bill on Billions. And so this show and the fact that it's curated for 15 audience members will always stay with me. And I guess it's out in 2014, so you can stop me whenever if this is boring.
This is so adorable. I feel like, even though you're like younger than me, I feel like this is like Auntie Danielle telling me about her adventures in theater. I am like enthralled.
You may be like the nerdiest person we've ever had.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
And like maybe nerdier than us even.
Yeah. I was gonna say, put on your glasses.
Podcast.
Yeah. But I do want to ask you. I'm gonna cut you off, but I'm just wondering, like, when did you realize like you were a nerd for this stuff?
I don't know.
Because you grew up in Orange County like I did, and there wasn't exactly theater in Orange County.
I will credit my mom, my single mom, whom I have many issues with as far as like religion and politics are concerned. But my mom would do this thing every weekend where she opened the LA Times to the culture section to see what was available, especially what was free that was available. And when I was growing up, she worked at a bank that got a lot of comp tickets because her building was in downtown LA, very close to what is now the Center Theater Group. I don't know if that's what they were called then, but Les Mis was my first musical there. And I think if I could really do the due diligence, I bet I would know people in that cast now that I've been here for a decade in New York. The same way that I saw Spelling Bee in San Diego when I was in college, and Sarah Stiles was touring there, and she's on Billions now, and was just in Tootsie, and that just, Billions has been my biggest Venn diagram overlapper in life because it employs the most amazing theater actors, and I credit Alison Estrin and Jen Gaw in casting, and because our bosses Brian Koppelman and David Levine love good, talented people, and we have a founder of Steppenwolf in there, and we have just amazing legends coming through that I just get to sit and watch and learn from and be in awe of. But to answer your question, Deep, I studied abroad for a year in London, and I took out a shit ton of loans, and I used them to buy theater tickets. And I will credit that London has amazingly affordable ticket prices for students. And I didn't party. I never got laid in London. I could not get a date to save my life there. I hated being called Oriental. And I could not fathom working there when I felt like I was just seeing an inclusion of Black and Indian bodies, and Indian is what they would call Asian, but I wasn't seeing what they called Oriental and what I call East Asian representation on stage. So while that saddened me, I took it upon myself that my education would be seeing as much theater in a town that had so much theater to offer. And I believe I saved all those playbills, but they're in storage in California somewhere. And I kept that nerddom, and I moved to the city, and I just tried to see as much as I could afford, as much as I could rush to. And it feels like an inspiration. It feels like an education. And I like to be reminded of why I live in this city that is not a forgiving city at times and can be very challenging and difficult. But if I go to the Museum of Modern Art and then I can go see a play and then go for drinks with friends, I'm reminded of I I didn't even take a subway to do all those three things that people save up all year to fly here to do, or it's their one high school trip of the year that they get to go outside of their hometowns, and my hometown has all of it in my backyard. And so I doubled down in my commitment to doing that. And luckily, like, work and social life kind of blends together in our industry anyway. And so I get to, like, it's an excuse to hang out with friends who are on stage and then drink with them after.
Okay, now we're all gonna cry.
Yeah, well, this is the part of live theater that I miss, and that's there's nothing like that. Like Deep, the last time I saw you was at it was one of the upstairs shows at Playwrights Horizons, and I can't remember the name of it at this moment, but I remember you sat like a row in front of me, and I thought, oh, Deep's here, and I would ask her out for a drink, but I know she's cautiously introverted, and so I'll wait until we're closer friends to ask her.
Oh my God.
Ran through my mind. Like,
No, Daniel, no one knows I'm introverted. This is so amazing. I feel so seen.
or like, Jose, I saw you at Second Stage, that show where the U-Haul went through the wall, right?
At
Grand Horizon, yeah.
yes.
Which, like, is an amazing effect of a U-Haul crashing through a wall. Hands down, amazing design there. Yeah, and those are like, and I count you guys as friends and colleagues now, even more so. And like, my memory of that show is heightened by my memory of seeing you guys there, and how we do that in theater lobbies, at intermissions, in line for the bathroom, or crowding around at the stage door after. Is so there's nothing like that.
This is so beautiful. Like, I'm like, I don't know if it's the margarita and the heat or everything, but like, you're making me think that for you, you know, like, one of the things that people often talk about when it comes to theater is that it's so ephemeral, right? And we see the performance and then it's gone. But what you're talking about is making me think of all your programs that you have saved for over a decade, almost as like, they're like snow globes, where like you can grab them and like shake them, and then also you have like an impressive memory, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm terrible with names, but things like pictures or visual things stay with me. They're time capsules, and so I could never Marie Kondo them, even if I didn't necessarily like the show, because they're part of that chapter or that year or that experience, and those seasons inform each other. And like, as I went through these old playbills, to see names of actors that I didn't know then and that now I've done a show with, or a reading with, or a TV show with, just is a testament to the, like, marathon that is our industry, and the rewards that happen when you see it as a marathon and not a sprint. And I find that so rewarding. And I guess, like, theater is my church now. It is my community. It is, as much as, you know, we are in a moment of reckoning and accountability, and tear it all down and rebuild it for the better state of evolution, I will always love this industry, and I think that's why I passionately fight for the changes that I believe can happen in this moment. And I'll remain cautiously optimistic there that we'll see real change that has lasting effects, so that my playbills aren't evolving from just all white casts to more inclusive casts, but that they'll all be inclusive and just diverse storytelling, and just colorful, and all sorts of bodies and identities represented on stage. And I think that's why I write, to try to include that myself, or actualize that world for myself, and feel a little more like agency behind it. Yeah.
Okay, if anyone from the government is watching or listening to this, now you need to find a vaccine just so this man can have more programs to add to his collection. Because this is, like, incredible. You made me miss being outside again, which is,
Yeah.
yeah. Now I'll have stuff to talk to my shrink about. Thank you.
I know now.
Thank you, Daniel.
Jesus.
Uh,
Can I ask you something?
Yeah, please, anything.
Yeah. Can I ask you something about your mom because I was watching a trailer for According to My Mother, which you co-wrote with Kathy Yan, and I know you're still developing it,
Yeah.
but I know a lot of I'm in Facebook groups with other APIs
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to talk to their parents about this moment right now. And so, what have you, over the years, you and your mother have disagreed about your sexuality, and so
Yeah.
what have been some tactics you've taken from those discussions that maybe other people can apply when they're talking to
Totally. I
parents?
I will represent the side that I guess is not the happy ending, where my mother and I lived through the LA riots, and my aunt had a liquor store, and my biological father had a car dealership, like a small, tiny car dealership. And while neither were completely destroyed, our neighbors, our church members, our colleagues' properties were damaged or irrevocably taken away from them. And that trauma has lived in my mom. And so it has been very difficult to talk about Black Lives Matter and about these protests, violent or nonviolent. And my mother has been the greatest example, and I think an illumination that might have occurred after our election in 2016 is how social media is a bubble, or echoes what you want to see and mirrors what you want to hear, and whatever those algorithms are not necessarily exposing you to what other people may firmly believe is their truth. And my mother has always been the barometer for me of knowing what is very hard for me to navigate is that which is absurd and untrue, fabrication or a lie that comes out of Trump's mouth, or that comes out of his cabinet, his people of authority, with air quotes, gets disseminated in Fox News or conservative news outlets, and then somehow gets translated into Korean. And my mother listens to that, reads that, and devours it as truth, and fully parrots that which Trump says or believes. Like, she'll say fake news in Korean. She'll say "Make America Great Again." She'll parrot these things that I find such heartbreak and feelings of contradiction in the fact that she is a cis woman, an immigrant, and a single parent, and she'll say, well, I worked harder, and she'll be spouting the model minority myth and putting down other immigrants. Even though, like I recently learned, she came here because she was engaged to a man who was recently divorced, and that engagement might have helped her get her citizenship. So I call hypocrisy where I see it. And she has this trauma from the LA riots, which is rightfully so. But the way she posts every video possible of Black bodies looting places with glee or abandon as her excuse that this is not a movement that is worthy, this is not a cause that is worthy, has been very difficult. And yet what I try to do is continue to engage and humanize and try to find points of empathy, not to diminish the Black-bodied experience in America, but to talk about how she herself had to work so much harder as an Asian body, as an immigrant, as a cis female, in a world that was white, patriarchally structured, cis male favored, and non-immigrant, nepotism favored. And if I can if I catch her on a good day, we can rationally talk about this. And I got to talk to her about it when the Black Lives Matter protests were very high in numbers and enacting curfews in LA. I had gone to visit my mother and see her in the backyard and not stay with her, but wear a mask and try to touch base with her. And she would say, when I was younger, I took you to the Martin Luther King Jr. parade so that you knew what the black-bodied experience was in America and how much we owe them as immigrants and for opening doors and allowing us to have rights that we didn't have, and it is on their bodies that we do have them, on their blood that we do have them. And she can say that and beautifully mean it, and also turn around and that same evening post a video of black bodies looting some small business. And that contradiction and what feels so opposite and absurd to be in one person exists in her. And I've tried commenting on every single one of those. I've tried reporting it to Facebook just to get the original seed of it deleted. I know my mother's password, so I could be as petty as to delete it myself, but I will, and my therapist is I gave my mother a credit card to support her a year or two ago, and he's always like, you could revoke her credit card and you could take her car away and try to do these things that would be much harsher. But in the same way, I imagine parents let their children go to formulate their own beliefs and identities and place in the world. I have really had to, especially with the pandemic as well, treat my mother like a petulant teenager, but also one who is fully capable of knowing how or what they can do and what the consequences are. And while I don't know that she really knows the complete ramifications of it, I am teaching myself to let go of the responsibility of ownership or of responsibility, period, of someone else who is an able-bodied human, fully making decisions of her own volition. And while I question the validity of truth, and while we live on opposite sides of a liberal conservative, that which is politicized binary, I try to continue to engage and hope that I catch her on a good day, rather than in the same way that my mother disowned me for being gay, and then it took us a long time to figure out how to have a relationship with each other, but it requires immense amount of compromise in both of us. I highly encourage people to not disown their parents or disown those who don't share the same beliefs as them, so that you don't become further trapped in a bubble or echo chamber of what you believe in or feeling your own values reflected in your immediate circle. And while that is a source of safety and comfort, and I do believe that protection is necessary for mental well-being and for a protection of your literal rights, which seem to be at threat every single day in this administration, I also believe in knowing what, quote unquote, the other side has to say, knowing what Will Arbery's characters and heroes from the Fourth Turning are discussing, are real arguments that people believe and are not just whack jobs or extremists, that this is truth to someone else, and what we believe or may scientifically backed know as truth may not be considered as such in others, and rather than isolate ourselves from them, to engage. And it takes an immense amount of patience, or a cocktail in hand, or a well-timed workout right after or before for some endorphins, or whatever you need to do for your mental well-being. Please do that. But I think to engage is more important than not, especially in this time where we are less than 100 days out from the election. And rather than please don't follow me if, or I will cancel you if, I'd rather us try to lend the generosity and find some common ground, and it can be found there, even if, like in my mother, it will not seem like that that can be retained long term or fully applied in the everyday. Maybe some part of it gets through, and her vote for Trump won't matter in California anyway, so I will assuage myself with that. Or my vote will always balance hers out, and we will, there is the definition of balance in the universe, in one family.
Uh, Daniel, thank you so much for spending time with us and for having a drink with us and for showing us your favorite programs. That was very special. Um, Plug anything that you need to plug and let our viewers and our listeners know what are you doing next, because you're like the busiest person in quarantine, I think.
Thank you for saying that. Inside of it, I don't feel that way, but thank you. Thank you for having me. It's so nice to spend time with Frida Kahlo and Parasite's Bathroom in your backgrounds. And I'm at www.danielkisaac.com. That's ISAAC. And at Daniel K. Isaac on Instagram and Twitter. So I'll be posting whatever is coming up. But Homeward, Homebound Theater Project, please support them August 5th through the 10th. $10 starting donations. B.D. Wong's Song Cycle that's about to come out. Please support the Actors Fund, Broadway Cares, Equity Fights AIDS. And look out for things on Mayi Studios. And there's 5 seasons or 4.5 seasons of Billions. If you want to binge 55 episodes, that's 55 hours of escape with some of your favorite New York theater actors. Amazing guest starring roles. And I also love this show, the other 2 that I did on Comedy Central, and the first season of that is available to binge as well. So I point to those things, and if anyone has Quibi, I'll have a Quibi series coming out in the fall, or guesting on one of those. But I don't know who has Quibi, but who don't save your free trial for the fall whenever this show comes out.
Jose, oh my God, you can explain to Jose what Quibi is, because he still does not know.
I don't know what a TikTok is. All I know is that the president is trying to shut it down. So those all sound like made up words to me, but you know.
Quibi is quick bites, and that just always makes me laugh. That quick bites as a TV show, and the same that I'm sure podcasts or Audible books are struggling because people aren't commuting. I think Quibi has massively been hurt by the lack of commutes, but we'll see if they can rally people to all the stories that they've called there and produced, because it was an access point that allowed for other storytelling to happen that, you know, the traditional networks weren't doing. So I'm going to root for the underdog and see what happens.
Wait, what's the Quibi show that you're doing?
It changed its name, so I actually would have to IMDb it, but it's on my IMDb, sure. It used to be called Emma, but then that Emma movie came out. And so I bet they thought, we can't do that anymore. So now it is called, IMDb, don't fail me now, it is called The Expecting. And it is directed by Mary Herron, who directed American
Psycho.
Yes, which, like, I don't, you know, I'm sure there are many examples to sexism in the industry I can point to, and I don't mean to speak for her, and it's not that she's ever said this, but if I look at someone who directed American Psycho, they should have directed so many other movies that are of that canon and of that cult popularity and blockbuster standard, and she has a great resume, but it should be better. And I will stand as a cis male and say that's sexism and unfair, and I had an amazing time working with her, and all the more reason that I would love to support that quick bite show, The Expecting, directed by Mary Herron, whom I love and geeked out on a theater podcast last minute. So,
are you wearing clothes in that show, or is it like Christian Bale in like the opening sequence of American Psycho?
I am fully clothed in that show. I am naked in BD's song, and I am naked in a web series called Mercy Mistress about a Chinese American dominatrix, which is also a random plug for a web series to throw out.
Wow, you wait to the last minute of the show to like plug your BDSM web series.
Nudity doesn't bother me, and I think sex positivity, if you can't tell, is a very important thing I'd love to spread. And so that show was amazing. I only remembered it now because someone with a foot fetish account reposted a clip and tagged me, and I thought, oh, that I really loved working on that web series. I hope that there's something else to binge watch during this time of quarantine.
So you can have Daniel all the time during quarantine. So thank you once again, Daniel. And
Thank you.
we'll either see you on Zoom or in the theater soon.
Perfect. We'll have another happy hour soon.
Yes.
Okay. Be safe and well, guys.
Bye.
Bye.